I'm not gonna lie, as a humongous Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door fan, it still feels like an absolute pipe dream for this game to actually be a reality, for this game to actually be coming back in HD and completely remade from the ground up is seriously one of the biggest, amazing gifts that Nintendo could have ever given us Paper Mario fans. And I actually cannot wait for this game, but at the same time, with it being a full-fledged remake, it makes me really wonder what other great additions they could add and change with Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door. Now, we saw with Mario RPG coming out that it actually is going to have brand new changes, and it actually is going to add unique things. For instance, you're able to go back and play harder versions of the bosses. There's new animated cutscenes when you do team attacks. There's new ways to commit with your team attacks, and there's a whole bunch of new little things that's probably going to be added to the game, and I really am wondering what is going to be added to Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door. So I asked you guys to tell me what changes that you would like to see in Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door, or what additions you would like as well, and you guys gave me a lot of responses. So today we have over 15 different wishes, and I can't wait to dive into them with you. But before we get started, a lot of you watching this right now are not yet subscribed. Stop what you're doing, it'll only take a second. If you enjoy the content, leave a like and subscribe. It really helps out more than you think. We're trying to move the bar to 20% of you subscribed, so please just make sure you leave a like and subscribe. If you're enjoying it, it's that simple. Alright, let's move on. Let's start off with the obvious one that almost everyone in the comments mentioned at least once, and that is Paper Luigi and the Marvelous Compass. There's a whole side story section in the game where Luigi actually goes on his own adventure to a completely different kingdom, where it's a side story about him rescuing a Princess Eclair in the Waffle Kingdom. So I think that's something that was really interesting. He even had little partner characters that would pop up beside him, and you got to see what they look like based off of different sweets and food, and I really enjoyed this concept, and I wish they would have allowed us to even see at least some pictures of Luigi's Adventure, and I think that would kind of inspire people to collect more of those stories and to buy those books and to look into those stories after each chapter to see what Luigi's going through. Now, of course, a lot of people would probably want DLC or side mode where we actually get to play through Luigi's Adventure, even if it's a smaller portion than Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door, but something in that manner would have been really cool. Maybe Nintendo holds off and has a separate side game for that later on. There should be something else with this. If it's just the same text boxes, it probably would be kind of disappointing. So if they just add some pictures or some type of visuals to show us what's going on, and even if they don't include it in this game or even as DLC, maybe in the future we could get that game separately or like a spin-off from the Paper Mario spin-offs that already are spin-offs. So I don't know, I think it'd be really cool. It's a pipe dream for sure, but we can always hope. Unknown Legend wants more post-games, such as more Trouble Center missions and side quests. Now, I believe there's only around 3 to 4 hours of Trouble Center missions at the end, which isn't a lot. It's kind of just some backtracking and finding certain people in certain areas of parts of the map that you've already explored. So maybe opening up some new areas or some more reasons to go back, adding some more of those missions and making more of them more unique could be very interesting to expand this game. And I see that as something that Nintendo could definitely do just by adding some more side quests. And it doesn't even have to be just Trouble Center missions, just side quests even as you're going through the core game that you can just get off the beaten path for a second, explore some new areas and part of the worlds that we've already seen, and maybe do some extra things for extra NPCs. Daytona Odyssey wants a hero/hard mode, and this could definitely be something that could be added, especially considering the fact that the Thousand Year Door really isn't that difficult, at least until the very end. If you're not leveling up properly, of course, it's an RPG, you're gonna have more issues, but if you're taking on every battle and just kind of going through the game very slowly, you're not going to have an issue with this game, especially with some of the more overpowered badges in this game. Yeah, I think an extra hard mode or hero mode would definitely be worth it. Or maybe even if you get to replay the bosses, play them in a harder version like you can in Mario RPG coming out again, that would be really cool as well. Just maybe like an extra game, new game plus, kind of like the Legend of Zelda games normally do, would be a great way to get people to replay the game. Creeper Dude wants more cutscenes and more cutscenes with partners as well, like the blimp portion in the trailer. So yes, when you're taking the blimp to Glitzville, you'll notice that it actually has a new looking cutscene when you can see all the characters in the blimp going to that island in the sky, which we didn't get before, which shows that maybe some of the scenes in this game are going to get changed. Yeah, I feel like there's not really a lot of cutscenes in Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door. A lot of the scenes are just kind of a character walking up to you or you finding your partner and just kind of talking to them and learning learning a lot of things through dialogue. So maybe they actually add some new, cool animated cutscenes and changes to some of the chapters. Bread Show actually wants new optional areas to fill in story, like story elements from Admiral Bobbery, and I couldn't agree more. I could not imagine if there was like some other extra islands we got to go to or different things from the side quest and got to check out some new areas only for some small collectibles, maybe even like a special side boss fight, new enemies or something like that, but completely optional. Like, you don't have to do it, but it's more like a side quest thing that gives us some new areas to explore that we didn't have in the original game. This is something that would be really cool, even if they let us explore like maybe small parts of the original Paper Mario areas from Paper Mario 64, or maybe even an area where we can go to the Mushroom Kingdom and explore Peach's castle would be really cool as well. Next up, we have the Gaming Pez states that they want to see chapter selects or replayable missions, and that would be really cool. Like, after you completed the game, you can go back and play a certain chapter again, and maybe it just allows you to play that chapter based on where you were in the game. For instance, it won't let you play it again with your super high level now, but it will take you back, like kind of just like save states. Like, you can go back to chapter 3 and play it at the level you were when you got there. So that way you can just replay missions and kind of relive certain chapters that you really loved. That would be really cool. I could see that being a lot of fun, but Nintendo probably won't do something like that because it would have to just be probably like save states if they was going to make that work properly. And in the same vein, KBA wants there to be replayable bosses like RPG is doing. Yes, Mario RPG is actually allowing us to go back and play through past bosses and even play through harder versions, which we'll get to in a second. This is something that I not only wanted in the original game, but it's something that I also wanted in like most games in general, just to be able to go back and fight bosses again without having to play through entire levels or entire story elements. That would be a lot of fun. I mean, I always wanted to go back and fight Dupless and Cortez, and being able to do that would be awesome. User ID wants to be able to replay the 2D Bowser missions, and yeah, I don't think there were many. There's only like 2 or 3 that I can recall, and they were very short, so replaying them probably won't be possible, but I could see it if they added new levels. Maybe they add extra levels as like replayability, and maybe even like bonus levels after you beat the game to play with Bowser. They always reminded me of Super Paper Mario, and maybe that's why they had that inspiration to move forward with something like that, but I don't really see that being a big thing here since it's such a small part of the main game. But it definitely would be a great addition if they added new levels. So we already talked about being able to refight bosses, but Strange Fishman actually brings up X versions of the bosses like Mario and Luigi, like being harder versions and replaying them. Once again, Mario RPG is doing this as well. I would love to see something along these lines where they have like a different color and they actually add new moves and attacks and different things to their moveset as well. Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story was the first game to really do this, and it was a really cool idea, made them a lot more difficult and changed up their attack patterns and even added some new attacks. So I think doing something like that in Paper Mario the Thousand Year Door would be awesome. It would also give the, maybe a separate section to refight the bosses, already fixing that problem as well, like in a separate list where you can choose what X boss to fight. That would be really cool. I mean, we've already seen different versions of Hooktail, so something like that would be awesome. The Awesome Gamer wants Luigi just to be a playable character. Now, we already talked about, obviously, Luigi and the Marvelous Compass being like an extra game mode, or maybe a DLC or an expansion later on. But what if it was just like a reward after completing the game the first time? Now you get to play as Luigi, very similar to Mario Galaxy. Now, how would they do certain elements, like where Luigi shows up in the background telling a story? Simple. He's just not there for this one. Or maybe it's replaced with Mario, and maybe Mario tells a different story or something. And like, it's like a alternate timeline or something, or maybe they just don't need to explain it at all and just don't have the Luigi sections. I mean, they didn't really explain it in Mario Galaxy. It was just, here's Luigi. Next up, we have Maeve Blog that wants new bosses, which could be really fun. You know, I'm always down for that. New characters or new bosses to fight, or maybe secret bosses in the game would be a lot of fun. For instance, I know a lot of people have brought up Prince Mush in the Glitz Pit, which would be really cool. And I'm not going to kind of explain everything about this character in case you just want to find out for yourselves. But trust me, it would be really cool after you find out who this character is and why they're so important and why they're so powerful. But at the same time, there's a lot of other bosses I could think of and lore stuff that they could have you fight against. I mean, even rebattling Rock the Hawk, just a lot stronger this time, would be awesome. And this actually goes along with another comment I read from Smabverse that states, new glitz pit at the end with Prince Mush being a super boss. Now, I like this whole idea because this chapter is one of the greatest chapters of Paper Mario history for me. I loved it, being in this fighting arena and going into the locker room and slowly leveling up and being the greatest to fight, and also playing detective work to find out what's really going on with the organization and the CEO. It's amazing. And I would love to have maybe a post game where you can come back here and you can actually fight in another version with new enemies and new bosses at the end, maybe Prince Mush being at the end. That would be awesome. And I feel like that with all the chapters would be really cool. Maybe there's a reason to go back to each area and there's something new to do there. And that would be a really cool thing for the Glitz Pit in Glitzville. I'm telling you, that would make me super happy. Drybro19 wants Paper Mario 64 areas specifically. Now, we kind of touched on this earlier, but that would be awesome. I mean, we've already seen that they kind of teased like the island with the map inside Mario and Luigi's house within the remake, which is really cool. So that would be awesome. I doubt this would happen because I feel like eventually we are going to get a Paper Mario 64 remake as well, maybe far off in the future, but I do see it coming eventually because that game is probably more deserving considering the fact that it's a Nintendo 64 game compared to Thousand Year Door on the GameCube. But maybe if they don't have plans for a remake or remaster of that game, maybe they will give us some areas. I mean, there were rumors saying that Paper Mario 64 was going to get ported to the Switch and like maybe remade for the Switch, so I don't really know. But if they did add some extra areas, maybe at least like Toad Town would be really cool. Like Toad Town and Peach's Castle would be a pretty awesome post-game exploration area, and maybe you can see all the partners there too, because we know there are partners that are going to be returning as NPCs from Paper Mario 64 in the Thousand Year Door in the past areas that you've explored, so maybe they can all go here too, and some of the other characters from the first game, and maybe there's other characters and enemies that you can fight as well, like Junior Troopa again would be pretty funny. Now, we do have a brand new OST, and it sounds like the music is remixed completely and honestly has a really cool vibe of some of the newer Paper Mario games, which is a great sign because the music in the newer Paper Mario games is one of the best parts of those games. It's so good, and it kind of adds some of those trumpets and some of the new instruments and the guitar riffs that we've heard in some of those games. The music just sounds so much more alive, and I really like this, but still there's going to be people that prefer the original. And once again, Mario RPG does have an option to have the original music and the new music, which is really cool. So I hope that option is here for people that just want to hear the original themes. Let's face it, no matter how good the remixed music is, there's always going to be that one track that just doesn't quite sound as good as it used to. Hopefully Nintendo doesn't mess any of them up, like the Cortez theme especially, but yeah, there should be at least an option to do the original or the updated music. This one is very specific, so if you played the game, you might understand this one, and I had to comment on this because it's just kind of true. Squirrel Mario wants there to be a pipe for Chapter 4 that leads from Creepy Steeple to Twilight Town, because if you don't know, in this chapter, you have to go back and forth multiple times to the castle, all the way off in the deep woods, all the way back to the Twilight Town village, and it takes a very long time. You'll run into very similar enemies over and over again. You have to keep going through the same segments, and it's very repetitive, chasing down Dupless and trying to figure out the mystery. But I feel like it adds to the chapter, the backtracking. It's not terrible, and it kind of makes the chapter what it is because it's not that big of an area. So I don't think they're going to do this, even though it would definitely save time, especially for speedrunners, but unfortunately, this is probably going to stay the same. Something else I thought of is maybe adding more badges, as there's a lot that got cut and didn't make the final version of the game. But some of these are very overpowered. Maybe they just bounce them off more and add them to the game. For instance, there's one called the Triple Dip that allows you to use 3 items in one battle. That's pretty insane. Or maybe some badges that change how Mario works in the overworld, maybe allowing him to have some type of mobility to move faster or something. I remember a lot of people were also talking about that spin in Paper Mario 64. They wanted that to return in the Thousand Year Door, allowing Mario to move across the worlds faster. So maybe something like that that changes things. Maybe putting some of these cut badges in the game would be pretty cool. Dylan King wants more optional side partners like Mrs. Mouse. That would be pretty cool for sure. There's a whole side quest that's completely optional that you don't need to do to get Mrs. Mouse. Now, she's not by any means an OP side partner or anything that special, but just an additional character that you can get as part of your crew. It'd be awesome if there was another one as well. Maybe even bringing in a character from Paper Mario 64, one of those side partners, or maybe a completely new one altogether. What if Luigi could be a partner character for Mario? Imagine Mario and Luigi working together and Luigi having a set of skills that actually goes along with Mario. It's kind of like a Mario and Luigi game. That'd be pretty cool. But yeah, just having another optional side partner just for the sake of having one, maybe a post-game partner to help you, do some things post-game would be awesome. Something like that would be crazy. I don't think it's going to happen, but it'd be awesome. And then finally, Tsunami Productions states that they want to see some type of online or multiplayer. Now, I don't think there's going to be any multiplayer. It's a Paper Mario game. I don't really know how that would even work. I guess maybe one person controlling the partner and one person controlling Mario. That would only probably be co-op if that even happens. I doubt it, but it could happen. Who knows? Maybe someone gets to control your partner character for you. That'd be cool. But then I would say the only other possible thing would maybe be some type of online leaderboards. Maybe for some of like the mini games or like the casino games, something along those lines. Or maybe they add some more mini games and stuff to have leaderboards for. Maybe stuff like, for instance, the Pit of 100 Trials. Maybe there is like a leaderboard for whoever completed it the fastest. I could see a lot of people competing on that and just kind of speed running through those floors and using their different badges and stuff to do so would be pretty cool, and it'd be fun to watch those videos. But overall, I don't think there's going to really be much if there's going to be any online. And that's pretty much everything that you guys have given me. There's probably even more things that you guys want changed. If there are, let me know in the comments down below, because I'm very interested in seeing if there's anything else that you guys can think of. And yes, I'm just super excited for this game. Whether all these happen, some of these happen, or none of these happen, I'm still going to be the biggest, happiest boy, because I'm so happy for this game to be coming in the modern era. Like 2024, to have Paper Mario the 1000 Year Door just still seems like a dream. Paper Mario fans, we definitely won. But thank you so much for tuning in. If you're excited for this game, let me know right now by just leaving a like and subscribing. That's all you have to do. It helps out the channel so much. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you all on the next one. See you guys.